Morning, everybody. Welcome. I am Amanda Woodward. I'm going to hand over to Colin and Mary, who are both from ARKK, and they will be taking you through some of the requirements. They'll provide a demo of their service. But I just wanted to give you a bit more of a broader context to the session. There are a number of solutions and also providers that you may be aware of for providing an ESEF compliant solution for your annual report. Control Print and their tagger is just one option of many, and you may have seen or attended their recent webinar. If you would like to receive that recording, then please contact me directly and I can share that. There are service providers, there are solutions broader than that. We have partnered with ARKK as the preferred post-production solution, and that involves really them providing a full service support to you. And Mary is going to talk you through that now. So let me hand over to those guys. Thank you.
Perfect, thanks. Yeah, so just as a brief introduction, my name's Colin. I'm the ESEF regulatory manager here at ARKK, and I've worked here for a number of years now, and I primarily deal with the day-to-day activities on the ESEF front. So that's the tagging and the reviewing of the accounts and all the handover calls with the clients and queries as such, everything that leads up to a successful submission. And then we also have Mary on the call today. So Mary, just introduce yourself.
Thanks, Colin. So I'm Mary. I'm the technical sales consultant at ARKK, looking after our ESEF offering. I've been with ARKK for over 5 years now. Spent the majority of that time managing or heading up our IXBRL operations, which is based out of Belfast. And I've more recently moved into the commercial side to manage our ESEF product. So today I'm going to take you through the process, how our process works and how it fits in with your year end. And then Colin is going to take you through a demonstration and show you what the output looks like. So on that, to give you an introduction to ARKK, ARKK was founded 12 years ago in response to the UK mandate for IXBRL. Since then, we've gone on to tag over 5,000 documents annually, and that's for Hmrc and for Irish revenue. We partner with 30% of the FTSE 350, and we work with 50% of the top accounting firms in the UK. We're fully ISO 27001 certified, and we're paid book members of XBRL UK. So we have a number of people actually on our XBRL team that are members of the XBRL UK committee. So you can ensure that any regulatory changes that are being discussed at that level, you'll be aware of them well in advance. Our objective with our partnership with Emperor is to make your process as easy as it can be when it comes to your publication next year. We've had quite a number of clients that we've done with Emperor this year who've gone ahead with the full process. And yeah, it has worked quite well. So it really is trying to avoid adding any additional work onto your year end when it comes to your publication in 2022. So about our team itself, so we're UK based. Our head office is based in London, and then our IXBRL team, along with a few other teams, is based out of Belfast. Although I think we're all over the UK at the moment, but our offices are Belfast and London. Experienced team, so I've been here for over 5 years, as many of the team. Colin, I think, joined a couple of weeks before me, so years of experience in the world of IXBRL, which is what the ESEF taxonomy is based on, the IFRS mandate. So we're well used to that when it comes to tagging for Hmrc and for Irish revenue. And that is really important to note when it comes to your ESEF report, as it is not just as straightforward as you're tagging for Hmrc or for Irish revenue. With ESEF, what we've seen is about 20% of the file requires human intervention when it comes to the creation of extension tags. And the team over here in Belfast, they apply over 1 million tags every year. So you can rest assured that they know what tags are available in the taxonomy and what tags that we've seen from prior experience and reports we've tagged to date that should be created and anchored back to the ESEF taxonomy. And I'll touch on that a little bit more, and Colin will show you an example of that in the tagging demo as well. When it comes to, we are a service solution, as Amanda said, we're not a software solution, but our service does go beyond just the tagging of your report. We're very much there on hand. We'll have your date of submission in our diaries to ensure that when you come to submit your report to the National Storage Mechanism in the UK or any of the regional regulators across Europe, we're on hand to ensure that you receive a successful submission. And to date, we've submitted to 7 or 8 jurisdictions across Europe, which is quite a lot considering most countries delayed. So what is ESEF? ESEF is the European Single Electronic Format that has been rolled out by ESMA. It initially came to light in 2014, and we started looking at it in-house, must be 3 to 4 years ago now. And of course, the regulation has changed and has developed over that time period, and the taxonomy itself has changed. The UK have brought out their own version of the ESEF taxonomy, and you can see ESMA there updated their taxonomy late last year. So the regulation has always changing, but it did come to light 7 years ago now. The purpose of ESEF is to make reports easily comparable right across Europe, be that in the same industry, in the same jurisdiction, and whatever that may be. It takes away that human element that, to compare one report to another, that you have to look at the report. It can be read by computers. So it applies currently to all main market listed businesses across the EEA. For most EU firms and for all UK firms, ESEF will first apply to accounting periods starting on or after the 1st of January 2021, meaning that the reports with 31st of December 2021 year end are the first in scope. So as I said, that's all UK firms and most across the EU. And there are a couple of countries in the EU that didn't delay, such as Germany and Austria. So we've already seen some filers for those countries. But for any UK-based firm, we'll see our first mandated filing come 2022. So the full annual report must be converted into XHTML format. For year 1, the iXBRL tagging will only apply to the primary statements. And then for year 2, so that would be your year end starting on or after the 1st of January 2022, block tagging of notes will also apply. For your first mandated submissions, it will just be your primary statements. Year 2, it will be your block tagging of notes. Year 3, we don't anticipate any regulation changes. However, the UK have added in the SEC or tags to their ESEF taxonomy. So that is likely to be mandated at some stage. And there's also likely to be taxonomy changes over the next few years as well. The document itself, Colin will show you an example of what the document will look like. It will look identical to your PDF that you're used to publishing on your website. So this report will also have to be published on your website. And in the UK, filed with the National Storage Mechanism. Yeah, that's ESEF. So ESEF is iXBRL. For those of you not aware of what iXBRL is, it is essentially a way of barcoding numerical data or textual data, in fact, in a report. An iXBRL report can be read by the human eye. So it will look like a web page. You can open it up, read what is in the report, but then the coding in the background that we apply, and this will make more sense when Colin takes you through the demo, but the coding in the background that we apply to it will ensure then that the report is also in a format that can be read by computers. So tagging, here's an example of what tagging is, and this would be quite a common one that we see for Hmrc or for Irish revenue tagging. It is the process of applying iXBRL to an annual financial statement. In this example, for revenue, we would tag revenue with the IFRS concept called revenue. It is in GBP. It applies to a period of the 1st of the 1st 2019 to the 31st of the 12th 2019. It's in millions and it's a credit. So it is more than just a matching exercise when it comes to tagging a report, and it's something to bear in mind if you are looking at software solutions. You will be given the taxonomy that you will have to match back essentially to your primary statements. There are over 7,000 line items in that ESEF taxonomy, but in addition to that, you have to go and define each one of those items. So be that your currency, the data it applies to, your scaling, and then obviously the signage of the tag itself. Then in addition, when it comes to your ESEF reporting, we have the concept of extending and anchoring. So unlike your existing tagging for Hmrc or for Irish revenue, where there is a line item in your ESEF annual report that there's no corresponding tag for it in the ESEF taxonomy, we have to go and create a tag for that line item. So it is mandatory to tag every item in your ESEF taxonomy. So in this example on the right-hand side, you will see revenue from phone sales. That is not an IFRS concept. So in this scenario, we would create a tag, likely to label it as revenue from phone sales, add all those additional items to that. So be that the currency, the scaling, the signage of the tag, and the period that it applies to. And then we would go and anchor that back to the nearest item in the ESEF taxonomy. So in this example on the right-hand side, quite a straightforward one, but we'd anchor revenue from phone sales back to revenue. And then that moves us on to what is the difference between Hmrc and for an ESEF tagging. So ESEF just applies to main market listed companies. Hmrc tagging applies to all companies across the UK and Ireland. Tags applied. So as I already said, ESEF has a concept of extending and anchoring tags. It means that all items in the primary statements need to be tagged, whereas for Hmrc, that's not the case. If there's a line item in the report that there's no tag available for, that line item is just simply left untagged. Turnaround time for ESEF, our standard turnaround time for your final report is 24 hours. We have quicker turnarounds available of 4 hours with inside business hours and 6 hours outside of business hours. For Hmrc, the standard turnaround is 15 working days. And the purpose of that is that your ESEF report needs to be published on your website. A lot of people are doing that when they go to publish their report, they're using their ESEF report to do so. And also you only have 4 months from your reporting period end date to submit your report to the National Storage Mechanism. For Hmrc, you've a year from your reporting period end date to submit to Companies House or to Hmrc. Number of reviews internally, your ESEF compliant report will go through multiple reviews before it's sent back to you. We'll also complete a handover call with you to take you through the tagging, particularly those tags that we have created on our side, as we've manually gone and created the label of the tag, the signage of the tag, etc. So you'll have to ensure that you're happy with that. How we've created them accurately represents the line item in the report. It is also publicly available information. You can go onto the National Storage Mechanism now and download any ESEF report that has been submitted this year. It will also be available on your website. So it's very much open to public scrutiny. Unlike your tagged reports from Hmrc, if there is an issue in one of those reports, that is a private matter that's dealt with Hmrc. It's not in the public domain. Time for review on your side. You will have 1 month to review the tagging analysis report. So I'll move on to this in a few moments when I take you through our process, but a lot of the work we do before your final report is ready. But you'll have a 1 month to review that on your side. For Hmrc, you have 2 weeks to review the report. And again, that comes back to the concept of extending and anchoring. It is quite straightforward to review your Hmrc report, as these are IFRS concepts that you're reviewing and they shouldn't change year on year. Whereas for your ESEF compliant report, there's a lot of manual intervention there required. So it does take a bit of enhanced review on your side as well. Format of the report was really important when the ESEF concept came to light, that the output of the report does look identical to the PDF that you would usually publish. It is a mirror image to the human eye. I don't think the PDF is going anywhere. I'm sure Amanda and the team can back me up on that. But I believe the PDF reads better on mobile devices and it prints better as well. So I think the PDF is still here to stay, but your XHTML tagged report will look identical to it, just in XHTML format. For your Hmrc reports, these aren't being published anywhere. They're not available in Hmrc for the public to download. Again, for Companies House, they're not available. So when it comes to the formatting of those reports, it doesn't really matter if any of that InDesign element is retained. In fact, a lot of the InDesign element when it comes to Hmrc submissions is blocked on submission. So quite often we have to remove images and text boxes, etc., from that report. So it is quite different than what you would see with your ESEF compliant report. Then we move on to our process and timelines. So as I said, the bulk of the work is done in advance. So we would take your prior year report. So if you are a December 2021 year end, we would take your December 2020 annual report, fully tag that to the ESEF mandate. So for year one, that's your primary statements. And there's a handful of tags, such as company's name, that falls outside of that. That takes 15 working days on our side. We can tag Word files, PDF files, or InDesign files. If we're going to tag InDesign files, we also need your fonts supplied. So I think PDF tends to be the easier option for both parties. So as I said, we fully tag then this report to the ESEF mandate, and it goes through a review in-house, and it's tested against the ESMA mandate to ensure that all mandatory tags have been applied. Colin and the team then will schedule a handover call with you and all parties involved on your side to take you through that tagged report, particularly those extension tags that we've created. You'll have 2 review reports, and Colin will show you an example of them. One will look identical to the report that you'll publish on your website. So a copy of your PDF, but it will have an inline viewer that will allow you to click through the tags. The second report then will be an Excel report that will detail all the tags and all those additional elements applied to those tags, such as currency, scaling, if it is anchored, what it is anchored to, etc. So you then have a month to review on your side. Of course, we'll work with you throughout that month to take you through the report and any questions that you have. We don't just hand it over and expect you to come back to us in a month. We recognise that this is a new process for everyone. So we're very much on hand to help you with your review within that month. We would recommend that you do speak to your auditors at that stage. We don't believe there will be any audit requirements in the UK for year one, but we still recommend that you do have that conversation with your auditors because it is likely to come in down the line. So if they want to get involved early and review the tagging of the primary statements, now is the time to do it. We'll then modify the report with any suggestions that you have or any feedback that you have and regenerate a new report for you to do your final checks on. And then essentially the process goes on hold until your final 2021 annual report is ready, at which stage we'll take the agreed tags from your 2020 annual report, extract them and import those into your final report next year. And that's when your standard 24-hour turnaround comes in. If there are new line items in the report, what we can do, what we found works quite well this year, is that if Emperor or a member of your team give us a draft of your primary statements, once they're ready in early 2022, then we can roll over the agreed tags while your final PDF is being created. And you can sign those off prior to your final PDF being ready. So it just takes that review process a little bit earlier in your final reporting stage. So one thing just to bear in mind there is that the bulk of the work is done this year. It is really a 2-month project, 3 weeks on our side and then a month on your side to review. So if you are December year end, it is something that you need to consider, I guess, sooner rather than later. And if I can offer you any advice when it comes to whether you're looking for a software solution or another service provider, is that the bulk of the work will have to be done this year to get yourselves prepared for your 2022 filing. So yeah, just bear that in mind when you are looking for your solution. And now I'm going to hand over to Colin, who is going to take us through the demonstration and show you an example of what the output looks like.
Perfect. Thanks, Mary. Now for the fun part, the actual tagging of the accounts. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of the actual tagging process that happens internally here at ARK, and then I'm going to touch on the overall outputs and how to use the actual outputs provided for the review process as such. So in terms of tagging, we use the Amana adapter. This is the leading software in Europe based on ESEF tagging requirements as such. And essentially this is what it looks like. So I already have a PDF loaded there. You'll see it pulls through on the left. And then on the right-hand side, I have the full tagging pane. Now this pane includes all tags within the ESEF taxonomy. And if I expand all, I can actually just show you how many tags are included in the taxonomy. So it's quite an extensive taxonomy there. But as Mary did touch on before, it is only mandatory at the minute to tag the primary financial statements. So a lot of these we won't need to look at the minute. But what you will see here is that it loads up directly as the PDF would show. The only thing is we have it split up into all separate pages, so it makes it easier for tagging as opposed to just one full document there. And as such, I will take you through on how to actually apply tags. So within the team here, we have about 2 to 3 years knowledge and experience of tagging ESEF. But just on the back of that, the ESEF taxonomy is actually based on the IFRS taxonomy, and which we use in IXBRL tagging, which we have over 11 years experience. So we are all too familiar with the available concepts there within the tagging of the reports. So I will just take you through and show you how we actually apply tags. So the first thing I'm going to touch on there is there are a couple of mandatory textual tags. So it is only mandatory at the minute to tag the primary financials. However, for a successful submission, there are about 8 or 9 different mandatory textual tags that need applied. And as such, one of the textual tags is the name of the entity reporting. So here we can see HEIQ PLC is the name. So if I just highlight this, it's a simple case of finding the tag within the taxonomy. So I have name of reporting entity here, and it's a simple case of just drag and drop over the text. And that would be the tag applied for the text, the name of the entity there. It's pretty simple when it comes to textual tagging. And then once we get into tagging the actual primary financials, it gets a little bit more extensive. So first thing we have to do, I have the comprehensive income statement here. The first thing to actually do with these is I have to highlight the whole table. And I use something called a placeholder. So this will put it in place in terms of tagging the actual financials instead of just dragging and dropping over the numbers. This will create a table and it will put it into almost Excel format. So I'll put everything into cells as such that enables me to tag the actual figures. So the first step is creating a table. And then if I move on, I actually have a briefly tagged document here. So you will see some tags have already been applied. I've already applied the table. And if I use this table tagging function, you will see it splits it up nicely into individual cells that we can tag. So just in terms of the tagging, I've left out this current assets section. So there's a couple of things we can do with the tagging. There's 2 separate ways of actually finding the tags that need applied. So we can go through and we can use this function here that allows us to go through every tag individually, or we actually have a search bar. If you know the name of the tag, you can search for the tag or search keywords as such, and any tag, including those keywords, will show up. So in terms of tagging, I've got current inventories here. So I can highlight both boxes of the current inventories and I can go through and find the current inventories tag. And again, it's a case of drag and drop, and that is the tag applied to current inventories. Now, there are a couple of different things we need to do on this then. So we have this box here called tagging properties. And this is the tagging properties of the tag that has been applied. So different things that we look out for here. I have report as nil value. I have to keep as false. Report as nil value is there in case there are dashes as such within the file there. So if we hit report as nil, it'll be a dash. Then I have decimals of -3. So in simple terms, this report has been stated in thousands of dollars. So in simple terms, there are 3 zeros missing from the end of this number to get from the stated number to the actual fact number. So that's your -3. Then I got the number and date format. So number dot decimal is usually the usual format that is applied there. Other documents may use commas or apostrophes as such there. Just a way to change that. Then I can change the currency. So this report is stated in US dollars. I can go through and change it to any available currency there. And I got scaling of 1,000. Again, this works in terms of the -3, missing 3 zeros from the stated value to the fact value. I also have sign logic. So I always keep it none. It means there's no separate signage there, but we also use a reverse function. So this reverse function gets used in case the brackets have been included as such. And so this is something I will touch on a little bit later here. But at the minute, I just go with none. And then I have the label of the line item. So this pulls through from the report itself. It's just called inventories. If it would be named something a little different, I can go in and just edit this line item there. They're the things we look out for when applying tags. And then if I move on to the current trade receivables, for this one, I can reset my filter, put everything back to normal. And this one, I'll actually use the search bar. So for this one, it would be current trade receivables here. So when I use a search bar, it'll show up all the keywords that are highlighted within the tag. And again, I can drag and drop and just double check everything there. And I always keep that as none. And then we move on to this line item. We have other receivables and prepayments. So this line item includes 2 line items as such within the one line. So you have other receivables and you have prepayments. And in this instance, you can't actually apply 2 tags to the one line item. So we have to use an extension function. So if I add an extension, it gives us the ability to anchor this tag back to the most suitable tags applicable there. So for this one, I have other receivables and prepayments. So again, if I just search other receivables, I have other receivables here that I can drag and drop, and that will be anchored to other receivables. But then I also have the prepayments. So if I search for prepayments, I have current prepayments. And I can drag and drop, and that means these 2 tags are applied to this line item. Now, there is a wider anchor function here. So wider anchor simply groups everything back together almost. So in this line item, I have other receivables and current prepayments. And then I would anchor back to almost the nearest subtotal. So the subtotal is current assets. So again, I can reset and I can add the tag current assets. As such, like that. And then I would make current assets the wider anchor. So that groups it all back together, simply pretty much says that it's included in this section, and these are the 2 tags that have been included. So that's how we extend and anchor back to the most suitable tags applicable. Then on other things here, so on all extended tags, we have the ability to make either a debit or a credit. And we also have the ability to rename the label as such. So the label pulls through again from here, and I like to keep it as specific to the line item as possible. So I would keep that other receivables and prepayments. But if the client thinks it could be named something a little more accurate along the way, that is something that we can amend there. So we have the ability to change from a debit to a credit on extended tags. But if you look at tags that aren't extended, we actually don't have the ability to change the debit or credit balance. It's already a predefined credit or debit. So that's where I would use this reverse function. So sign logic, I have reverse. So if I needed the brackets to be not included, I would use reverse and it would make it a positive again. So that's how we deal with the debits and credits within the non-extended tags. And then just on debits and credits there, it is mandatory to include calculations throughout your document. So calculations are on most subtotals there. So just as an example as that, I have current assets here and I have a calculation function. And you will see there are blue boxes highlighted when I click on current assets. This means they have been included within a calculation. So the calculation as such would usually add up. So if I click on the non-current assets, you will see a green calculated total here. And it pulls through each of the parse values, so each of the stated values and their debit and credit balance. And it tells me that everything adds up correctly. So for line items like this, when it doesn't add up, I will get red here. And I actually can't produce the report with a calculation that is incorrect. So the calculations help us determine the credit and debit balance of each of the line items. And one final thing I'm going to touch on there, you will see one of the boxes is red. So we have different functions there. I have red, yellow, and green. This is something we use for our review process internally almost. So when it has been tagged, it's all tagged as yellow. And then when myself or one of my colleagues is going through and actually reviewing the document, I can go through one line item at a time and set as final. So I know it's final and it's agreed and it's good to go. So that is in a nutshell the tagging process there. However, I did say I was going to touch on the outputs provided as well. So whenever the full handover pack has been created, now this is a call I have with all clients individually. So it is something I touch on in a little bit more detail when it actually comes to it. But just as a brief overview, this is the handover pack that's included. And in terms of review, we offer a XHTML document and an Excel document. So just to touch on the XHTML first. This is your XHTML. And as you can see, XHTML pulls through exactly as the PDF would have shown, only in XHTML format. And then we have a pane on the right-hand side here. So this is what would be used for review. So I have display options and highlight. So that would highlight every tag that has been applied individually. And then I can use these arrows that actually take you through each individual tag. So if I just go through and show you, you will see all of your tags here applied in green or yellow, and you will see your concept section here on the right. So this is what you would use to review, and you would have the name of the tag, your date of reporting period, your fact value, and a percentage increase, decrease as such. So I have green and yellow tags. So the green are tags that have been applied directly, and the yellow tags are tags that have been extended and anchored back, as I showed earlier there. So when I touch on the yellow tags, we will see the name of the line item and then the anchored tags that it has been anchored back to. So this is the document you will use for the review process. And we also offer an Excel report there. So I have the Excel open, and the Excel splits it up into each primary financial statement almost, but it does include a lot more extensive information there. So again, you would use this for review purposes, and things you would see here is concept name and custom label, your XBRL value and shown value, and that works alongside the decimals and the scaling that I was explaining earlier. Other things you would have start and end date of reporting period, and you can go through and just check your currency and your debits and credits and things like that. And again, this is a call I have with all clients individually when the full process has been completed and it is time for the review process. I will touch on all of this again in more detail. But essentially that is just a quick overview of the tagging process here.
Great, thanks for that, Colin. Okay. So then we'll move on to some of our FAQs. As I previously said, it is really important to get prepared this year. It will make your next year process a lot more smoother. So regardless of what solution that you go for, it is really important that you have that in place and that your tag is underway. As Colin said, we use the Amana tagging software, which is XBRL certified. The XHTML document is the document there that Colin showed you with the inline viewer. That is also an XHTML format. However, the document that you will publish on your website will look identical to that, but it won't have the viewer included. So it will look like your PDF, just an XHTML format, and the tags will be embedded into the background of that. So ESEF, as I mentioned earlier on, it is really important that we don't compromise on the design of the report, and that's where our offering, I guess, comes in. Your document will be met by any regulation, but it is obviously keeping all the hard work that Hmrc do intact and ensuring that your design looks identical to the PDF. For the UK, you'll submit that to your national storage mechanism. For Irish submissions, it's the likes of Euronext Dublin. And we've worked, as I said, with 7 or 8 regulators now right across Europe. So we're very much on hand to help you with any regulation issues that you have when it comes to submitting your final file. And of course, each regulator has their own spin on how they want their files, be that labeled or what format they want them in. So for the UK, it's actually XBRL format, but it is an extension of XHTML. And many regulators do want that folder that you submit to them labeled differently. So we're very much on hand to help you with any of those issues that may arise next year. The UK, as I also mentioned, they have their own version of the ESEF taxonomy. It's called UK Ceph. It is identical to the ESEF taxonomy with a few additional tags added in, such as company's house number, balance sheet date, which I guess are to be expected. But it also has then your tags for your SEC or reporting in there as well, which we believe will be mandated down the line at some stage. And then finally, we can use other tagging partners if required. We have worked with many clients over the last year who have either done a voluntary submission or who've been mandated to submit in some regional parts of Europe. So we can work alongside other technology partners such as Control Print and Tag in those platforms if required.
Have a great day, everyone.